Bellator.
On that note, welcome everyone to the MMA Vivisection with me, Zane Simon, and my co-host Eddie Mercado and Victor Rodriguez, and we are here to talk about two shows today: KSW 42, Narkun versus Holodov. Two titles on the line over in KSW, as well as a major light heavyweight feature fight, or catchweight, actually, it looks like. And then also Bellator 195 taking place tomorrow. Darian Caldwell versus Leandro Higo, bantamweight title on the line. Neither card is really very deep outside of, the Bellator card is paper thin, and the KSW card's got a fun main card, but is otherwise nothing notable. So we're going to just talk about the main cards only for each of these. We might even skip a couple bouts on the main cards, or just fly over them. Interestingly enough, there are no odds out, it looks like, for Bellator 195 taking place tomorrow, so we will only be having odds for the KSW card. I have no idea why nobody's putting down lines for this Bellator card, but that's
really freaking weird. That's so weird.
It's really weird, and it kind of suggests nothing good for Bellator. Like, is there just so little interest in these cards that odds makers are just like, we're not going to bother? Like, we don't need to open a line for this? Because, like I say, if KSW's got a line out already for a card on Saturday.
You know, you guys remember when a couple of years ago, Bjorn Rebney was announced as leaving the company and Scott Coker was going to come in and fix a whole bunch of problems? Yeah. Good days. Yeah. I don't know what to do. I mean, like, the tentpole events are obviously, you know, they hold a lot of interest and capture the imagination of a lot of fans with this. I don't know what to do with cards like this. And it's a shame because, you know, guys like Caldwell and Ego, frankly, deserve better. But here we are.
So we will be spotty in our fight coverage because nobody else cares. So
I wish I would have known that. I would have reached out to the odds makers to say WTF. Maybe I should do that.
You can still do it.
Yeah, you can still do that.
Yeah.
But figure out what they're thinking on that, because it's weird. Anyway, we're gonna start out with the KSW card. Like I say, it's a little deeper. There's a little more to talk about on it, quite frankly. And nothing we're gonna mention on the prelims really, but jumping straight into the main card, a women's flyweight title fight, which obviously is, you know, something that fans in the UFC should be keeping an eye out for, because UFC is going to be poaching whatever flyweights they can and when they can. KSW is a hard market to compete with, but still. Flyweight title fight between Ariane Lipski and Silvana Gomez Juarez. Vic, what's your thoughts on this fight?
Oh, boy. I'm going to keep this as polite as I can. Juarez has not faced good competition. Lipski has faced increasingly more experienced opposition. She's looked like a world beater with some of these fights, but she's been also kind of plagued by having competition that isn't that great. And look, you know, the international happen. It just is what it is. You know, it's not a knock on either fighter. The problem is that Juarez has faced far worse opposition, has not looked as good as Lipski has eliminated. At least with Lipski, you see that there is a higher level of athleticism and technique. You know, her skill level is just higher. She's just, you know, she's just better in every facet of this fight. And not only that, I think I should mention now she's, you know, Lipski's obviously looking like a very big piece of the promotion's all their marketing and everything, especially for this fight. She seems to be their little queen and all, but Gomez is actually slated to fight next week in LFA against Sabina Masso, who hits even harder than Lipski. I think you all know where this is going.
Yeah, I would actually. It looks like that bout with Mazo may have been canceled.
Yeah, well, they better after this shit. I mean, damn.
Yeah. All right, Eddie, what are your thoughts on it?
Lipski is the queen of violence. That is the name she's known by. 10-3, 6 knockouts, 2 subs. She's won 8 in a row, finishing 7 of those before the 3rd round. Absolutely wicked on the feet. Solid knees from the clinch. She has pop on her punches. She's dropping fools, nice leg kick combos that she's surgical with. And she's won her last 2 fights by submission, so she's rounding out her toolkit. On the flip side, Juarez, 6-1 from Argentina, hits pretty hard herself, has a nice stance, has takedowns. I think this is going to be a banger, but I'll take Lipski due to the experience edge, the more diverse attacks, and having the more venomous knees on the inside. So
Lipski opened at a -600 favorite. Gomez Juarez hanging out at about +350 to +450.
Sounds about right. Yeah, I guess. At least there's odds for it. That's interesting.
Well, yeah, I just emailed one of the odds makers, so hopefully they'll get back to me before the show's over, and we'll have an answer.
Yeah. After that, we've got a lightweight title fight. Mateusz Gamrot defending his belt against Gregor Sulakowski. There we go.
Sulakowski.
Yep. And Eddie, what are your thoughts on this fight?
You got the undefeated Gamrot, 13-0. He went to the John Jones School of Eye Pokes. If you saw his fight with Norman Park, you know he poked him religiously in the eye. The fight resulted in a no contest, and then Norman Park ended up pushing one of his trainers and got fucking snuffed for it, which was my favorite moment of the entire fight. My favorite moment of both their fights, actually.
Yeah.
But the dude he's capable of some volume punching, even if it's a little bit on the lower power spectrum. He's got a couple of heel hook submissions, so he's dangerous there. His competition all have pretty decent records, but Norman Park is by far his best win. And he'll definitely have the wrestling advantage and the athletic advantage here. His competition, 9-1. He is one of these stereotypical Polish leg locker guys. 5 wins by sub, not very good on the feet. In true stereotypical Polish leg locker fashion, I've seen him get pieced up on the feet and then, tough it out to come back and find that submission win. Gamrot is just too savvy with submissions, even with the leg locks, so I don't see Shula's ground game being much of a threat here at all. You can draw out mistakes from Gamrot if you pressure him, but Shula just doesn't have the firepower or the wrestling to really kind of draw that out. So I don't see pulling guard working here either. I think Gamrot's going to win a really bloody decision, if not a late TKO here.
All right, Vic, who are you taking?
It's interesting, too, because what is it with all these Polish guys in leg locks? There's something very interesting about how these guys were there's just like a whole bunch of them that gravitated towards that. But, Sulakowski is one of those guys who, he does rely a lot on his chin. Both of them very athletic, but Sulakowski is more of the scrappier kind of guy. He's much more of a tricky, try to disrupt your opponent's rhythm type of fighter. And not only that, but even though his striking doesn't look that great, I mean, he's got the functional basic parts down. He's much more of an aggressive submission and chain submission attempt guy, whereas Gamrot is much more of a complete fighter, much more patient, willing to hang back and then, let things happen as they come instead of trying to force an outcome. I think that's definitely going to give him the experience here, but he's going to have his hands full because Sulakowski's not necessarily he will not be very passive. He's going to keep coming forward, and that's going to be interesting to see. So I'm going to stick with Gamrot keeping his title here.
All right. Odds on that. Gamrot is opened at -410, is currently at -393. Sulakowski opened at +290 and is currently at +294. So, I mean, basically +300, -350 or so. That brings us to a light heavyweight fight between Martin Zavada and Lukas Żurawski that I think we're just going to skip because it's 2 middleweight journeyman light heavyweights. It's an action break in the card pretty clearly.
Pass.
Yeah. For anybody that cares, Żurawski is at +134 and Zawada -160. So,
and just a gentle reminder that the Bellator card does not have odds, but this fight with 2 guys that probably aren't going anywhere after this does. Yeah. I don't know what that says about Bellator or KSW, but it kind of starting to say a little bit about both.
And that brings us to our co-main event. Michael Moderla, who recently flirted with the UFC, mostly in an attempt to draw a better contract out of KSW, which worked beautifully for him.
Capitalism, bitch.
Taking on UFC vet Scott Askham. And Vic, what are your thoughts on this?
I like this, man. I really like this fight because, you know, Askham is actually capable of some pretty sloppy yet amazing violence when he lets things hang loose. Problem is you don't really see him do that often. Moderla, though, is more of a consistent veteran. He's a very tough dude. His striking is pretty good. His grappling is a bit underrated. So I really do want to see where this whole thing goes, but I don't think that it goes in Askham's favor in terms of athleticism, in terms of just the raw strength and pressure that Moderla can bring. And not only that, but Moderla's wrestling is going to give him more of an advantage. His ability to control Askham and negate the mid-range. I think that's going to be a big deal here. So I as much as I love watching Askham fight, I don't think he's going to be able to show off the kind of thing that he likes to do when he executes in a fight. I'm going to have to stick with Moderla on this one.
All right, Eddie, who are you picking?
I'm co-signing what Vic said. The athleticism of Askham is just really not very good, and he just has
Muay Thai though, man. Cool Pit Muay Thai.
Yeah.
What was that?
Cool Pit Muay Thai.
Oh, whatever, man. Yeah. It's I don't know. He like has the tall man lag. You know, he's only 6'3", but has the tall man lag. So I just it's a rough sport for the tall man lag. It's not going to go well for him. I think he's going to get knocked out.
Odds say Moderla opened at -320, currently at -220, and Askham opened at +240, currently at +170. So those odds are moving closer, actually. That brings us to our main event: Thomas Narkun versus Mamed Khalidov.
Fucking Eddie's. Just look at Eddie's face. He's just saying his reaction to these odds, like, fuck, man, what are you guys doing with this money? Jesus Christ. Like, I'm sorry, I can't. It's, oh, God.
All right. Anyway, Eddie, Narkun, Khalidov.
This is cool, man. This is champion versus champion here. You got to love that. This is, Khalidov is like, he's like the Fedor of KSW. You know, he is just the man. He's 34, 4-2. 13 knockouts, 17 submissions, only 4 decisions, 14 fight winning streak. And I mean, this dude's been around forever. He's got wins over Matt Lindland and James Irvin and Jesse Taylor and Kendall Grove and Melvin Manhoff. Like he's has a beautiful resume. As far as his style goes, his fighting style, he actually gets taken down quite often, more than you would think. But he is severely dangerous off of his back. I mean, it's almost like a Liam McGarry situation, but instead of like Hail Mary submissions, like this dude is catching you early. Like it's a legit threat. And he has his takedowns on top of that, and he can hurt you on the feet, and he pretty much has answers for everything everywhere at this point in his career. And he's really good at slowing down the tempo, which is crucial as he gets older. And he mostly does that by giving high fives, you know, kind of like Yancy Medeiros does. Like he's really great about like getting dropped and like he'll get up and just, you know, smile at his dude and like, let's high five this out. Where it's really like, hey, let me take this extra 10 seconds to catch my breath or regain my composure. And that's such a veteran savvy move. Like I love it. Anytime you see him high fiving, it's usually he's getting a moment for himself. And, you know, although he has 30 finishes on his record, he has been winning a couple of decisions lately. So we know he can successfully go the distance. He will be taking on someone who is going to have the size advantage here. Narkin, 14-2, and he's a fucking killer. I mean, he's murdered everyone that has everyone he's ever beat. He takes them out. 3 knockouts, 11 subs, and he's on a 5-fight winning streak. I mean, this dude gets it done early. I honestly believe that in this situation, he's going to have to be big early. Like he has 1 round, I think, to come out and impose his will and just really put it on Khalidov here. Otherwise, I think he's really going to struggle come round 2 and round 3. And I've seen Tomas, get his ass beat and then, actually like turn away from the referee and just like quit. You know what I mean? Like ignore the referee and just kind of walk away. And I've never seen that sort of quit in Khalidov, like ever, like never. So I think the ability to control the pace, the more proven cardio, and a possible speed advantage due to the size discrepancy, and just overall savviness will be enough to get a decision win here. So I think it's going to be a tough round for Khalidov, but after that, I think he'll find a way to get the win.
All right, Vic, who you got?
Yeah, I'm kind of agreeing there, and I like the way that you described him as the Polish Fedor. KSW, among the many reasons that they're really around still and just putting on bigger and bigger shows and becoming more of a success. This is really smart booking because they're at a catch weight. Even though it's a champion versus champion fight, like a loss here doesn't hurt either guy that much. I mean, you could argue that it hurts Khalidov more than anything else, but even then, it's like, it's still, it's still a hell of a showcase here between two of their bigger names. And, I like Narkun's chances in this a little more than some other people would say. I mean, I do think he's got a bit of a reach disadvantage in terms of his cardio. I think it's up to snuff. I don't know that his hand speed is out there exactly. I don't know that mentally he's going to be able to stick in there if his body is made to quit. And Khalidov is very good at making that happen. So I really think that Khalidov is going to be able to outmaneuver him, outsmart him, set up hand traps, and be able to keep his distance, keep the fight where he wants it. Primarily, in the stand-up game, and once it hits the ground, be able to control early and be able to sort of work his way to a pathway to submission. And once the fight hits the ground, if Khalidov is in fact in top position, I think it's going to be a deficit that Narkun won't be able to work his way back from, unless it's super early and he's still got some bursts of energy. But I just think that Khalidov's top game, especially from half guard, or if he's able to catch the back, then that's pretty much going to be the beginning of the end.
Close odds for this one. Khalidov is currently minus 160 and Narkun at plus 130. So
I'm totally fine with those, especially considering the age of Khalidov and the size disadvantage that he's at. I think those are spot on.
Yeah, those are the big questions. Is when does Khalidov really start to lose a step? When does he start, having more trouble with the level of competition he used to be able to handle pretty easily?
I think it's really going to be just like the Fedor situation, where it just comes on so abruptly and he's just getting slept by guys. But what a run. What a run.
Yeah. No, dude,
we have a ways to go before that happens.
Maybe. I mean,
real quick. Isn't there a preview coming out for this card, Vic? Don't you have a preview out on Bloody Elbow?
It's in the hopper. Yeah, it should be coming up soon.
All right. So we'll have more on bloodyelbow.com for anybody else who wants more information on the card than we've provided here. To that point, though, we're going to bridge over to Bellator 195, Caldwell versus Higo. And like I said, this card is taking place tomorrow, but there's no odds out for it. I don't know if that's just nobody cares and nobody's betting on Bellator, so nobody's bothering, or something else. But
I honestly can't see that being the deal, because Caldwell was involved in one of the biggest upsets of all time. So was Ty Manglo. Like, why would you not have odds for that?
I don't know.
These guys are moneymakers.
I don't know that that's exactly Bellator's fault, but then again, they haven't really marketed much of this fight as it is. So what can you do? Emoji, shrug, emoji.
Before we get into the main card, I think we want to point out a couple of fighters on the prelims. Most importantly, middleweight and featured prelim fighter Romero Cotton, who was a huge standout college wrestler in his time at was it UNK? I don't know.
It was wasn't it like North Carolina or something like that?
It's got a K on it, so
I think that was Nebraska, somewhere in Nebraska. No,
either way,
I don't remember.
He looked very 0-0 in his professional debut, so I'm glad he's still on the prelims, and Who knows?
Hey man, listen, this is an interesting experiment, and I think I said this in a previous Vivisection, everyone's focusing on the heavy push of people like Heather Hardy and Aaron Pico, but no one's really talking about the Joey Davises and Romero Cottons and how they're actually coming up pretty decently. They're bringing them along nice and slow, and we can see a lot of big things. So it's going to be good to see, and hopefully he'll be able to follow in the tradition of some of these other wrestlers like Ed Ruth who are out there whooping ass.
He's a 3-time D2 national champion for Nebraska Kearney.
There you go.
So, there you go.
That's somewhere in corn country. I knew I had that.
Yeah. And then otherwise, you had one other guy on the prelim you wanted to mention, right?
Yes, Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland and very dynamic striking that he brings, taking on Tegan Dooley. That should be fun. It's also at middleweight, so be sure to keep your eye out on that.
Always good to see some middleweight prospects. That division does not have many of them.
Yeah. Otherwise,
jumping into the prelims, or into the main card, and a fight that I almost want to skip, Juan Archuleta versus William Joplin. Vic, can you convince me to give a shit about this fight?
I mean, you can skip it if you want. It's your show, Playboy.
Archuleta 17-1 coming out of what King of the Cage. I was gonna say I know I've heard of Archuleta for a while now. He started out with Gladiator Challenge.
Yeah.
Moved on to King of the Cage.
Yeah.
I think his big claim to fame is that he's a current 3 divisional champion for King of the Cage at 135, 45, and 55.
Yes.
So that's like his big thing. And he's a protege of Joe Daddy Stevenson. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, but it is a fact.
It's not these days. When we just saw Joe Mama fighting and
Joe Mama.
Yes.
See, you don't do that, man. You know what? And I mentioned that when we did the prospect scouting, when I did the preview of the Ultimate Fighter, and I mentioned that, like, man, I don't want to be too harsh, but it just is what that's another conversation. I don't want to get too deep into that. Look, William Joplin is an absolute veteran. 17-14 is an amateur. 11-7. I'm sorry, as a pro. 11-7 as an amateur.
Vic,
yes.
You said sacrificial lamb wrong.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, all right. Well, so Joplin, super, super tough guy, but clearly Archuleta's the guy that they're looking to showcase here as having him style on an established, very tough guy with an almost 500 record. So look, let's not have any pretensions as to what this is supposed to be. Whether or not it plays out that way is another thing entirely. But yeah, Archuleta should definitely win this. He's faster. His striking is much more crisp, and his wrestling is far more dynamic. So you got to go with that guy.
They're throwing him a freaking bone here.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, a women's flyweight bout: Emily Ducote versus Christina Williams. And Eddie, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm excited for this matchup. I think Christina Williams cannonballed into Bellator and really the professional scene. And she made her pro/promotional debut at the same time, destroying Heather Hardy and her hype train, absolutely letting her legs go, ended up shattering Hardy's nose there in the second, getting the TKO stoppage, all sorts of kicks, just lighting her up. It was awesome. She showed how one-dimensional Hardy's striking was, but this is now a chance for her to show that she has layers to her own MMA game because she's facing a damn good grappler here. Emily Ducote, she's 6-3, 4-2 in Bellator, coming off a 5th round triangle loss to Ilima-Lei Macfarlane in their rematch. Super competitive bout. She definitely did not look great on her feet in that Macfarlane rematch. Although she does have a nice right hand, she did not look sound at all. But she's proven that she can get the takedown even against someone like Macfarlane, and she has 3 subs in the promotion. So until I see Williams stuff a single takedown, there's no way I can pick someone so inexperienced against such a proven grappler. So I got Ducote 2nd round submission.
All right, Vic, who are you picking?
Yeah. Interesting to note that Williams has a 3-0 amateur career despite being only 1-0, but it still kind of makes it a weird thing for her to fight someone who's 6-3 and on this kind of stage, right? On the main card of a major organization, even though it's a card that's kind of tucked away, as we've already beat that thing on the head thus far. Yeah, definitely busted up Heather Hardy. She showed a lot of diversity and a lot of fearlessness in her striking approach. But yeah, Dakota's probably going to be a big test in terms of not just shooting for a double leg, but really crowding her with volume and then securing a clinch and starting her work from there. And that's where I think we're going to see a big test out of Williams. So unless Williams can pull a rabbit out of a hat and sort of, play keep away long enough, I mean, who knows how long she's going to be able to do that. And Dakota's jiu-jitsu is just really good. So I kind of want to pick Williams for the wild upset here, the reckless upset pick, but I'm going to have to stick with Emily on this.
All right. That brings us to our co-main event. Once again, like I said, there are no odds out for this card, so I got nothing to read for that. But co-main event, Joe Warren versus Joe Time and Glow, bantamweight bout. And Vic, who you got?
You know what, man? Taimanglo being just such a little fire plug, man. I mean, he's undersized even in that weight class, which is insane. Like you'd think that he'd probably drop a class or something like that, but no.
Bellator.
No, well, I mean, they've had showcase fights for flyweights. I mean, that's not, nothing stops them from doing that. But look, they want to keep this guy out here and keep him busy. He's a good addition to their roster. And taking on Joe Warren, who has been, win-lose since 2004. He's been alternating wins and losses this whole time. It's going to be a tough test, but I think Warren's already shot, man. I mean, I still think he's a phenomenal athlete. Even at his age, he's still able to compete with some guys, and he is still coming off a win. But Taimanglo might be able to still shuck off some of those takedowns and be able to outstrike him and sort of, just cumulatively keep doing enough damage to win a decision. Unless Warren's got some other new wrinkles to his game that lead to him actually getting those takedowns that he desperately needs to win this fight, I don't really see it going that well for him. So I'm probably going to have to go with Taimanglo by decision, unless A, Warren's got some, again, new nifty entries into takedowns, and B, Taimanglo's cardio ends up crapping out.
All right. Eddie, what do you think? You picking Warren to win this?
The battle of the Joes. The battle of the undersized bantamweights.
Joe squared.
Joe squared. Oh, man. Taimanglo, heavy-handed, kind of hard to take down. Caldwell did have issues at times, even though he did end up getting him down and dominating him. Sirwan Kakai got him down. Leandro Higo got him down. If those guys are getting him down, there's no reason why I don't think Joe Warren can't get him down. Taimanglo will threaten with submissions. Obviously, he caught Darian Caldwell in the third-round guillotine, threatened Kakai with a Darce in their fight, and he's built like a brick shithouse. So, that's really about all you can say about him. And he's got a heavy right hand. So he's heavy-handed. He's compact. And then you got Joe Warren, who is – he's 13-5 in the Bellator promotion, which is crazy. That's a lot of Bellator fights. There's guys on this card that don't even have that record professionally. You have to be really, really good to beat Joe Warren. Look at the list of guys that beat him, and you'll find some rather lofty altitude. You got Eduardo Dantas, Darian Caldwell, Marcos Galvao, even Pat Curran back in 2012. And that's really it. You're talking about world champions are the only guys that have been able to get past Joe Warren. And as we've seen from Warren as of late, he still has what it takes to beat these kind of middle of the road kind of guys, and like Sirwan Kakai, like LC Davis. And he can also, take these young whippersnappers to school like he did against Steve Garcia and just completely, just wrestling 101 them. So Taimanglo is interesting because Taimanglo was literally knocking on the door of a title shot, literally, not even
had one, except that I guess he didn't make weight, which is a discredit to him, but otherwise he really just should have had one.
Yeah, I mean, he shot himself in the foot with that. But he was literally right there. So he's like right there at being the contender. So is Warren still able to beat a contender? That's what we're going to find out. That's what is unknown. Warren's tough as fuck. He's probably the toughest guy in Bellator. He's got wrestling for days. He cracked Sir Wankakai with a knee that busted his nose and then submitted him. Yeah. You know what? I'm taking old ass Joe Warren here because Father Time is on a tape delay when it comes to Bellator. I'm taking Joe Warren by decision. What's up?
Oh, it's terrible. I wish I had odds to follow that up with, so I can segue right back to you for the next one after that joke.
Oh my god, I fucking love this guy. God.
Lord.
It shouldn't be this fun, but it's fun. God.
All right. We've got our main event now, the bantamweight title fight, the fight of the weekend outside the UFC. Darian Caldwell defending the bantamweight title against Leandro Higo. And Eddie, who you got?
Oh man, this is an excellent bantamweight title fight. I think it's super legit. Higo 18-3. He put up a hell of a showing against Eduardo Dantas, losing by split decision. That should have been a title fight, but Higo missed weight, so it was a catch weight. And then he goes on to win a decision over Time Manglo, which was very solid. I thought he looked great in the clinch. Even got some takedowns, stuffed a couple takedowns. He's a pretty proficient striker, but not particularly venomous. He's a pit bull. Is he a pit bull product?
Yeah, he is. Yes.
Yeah, and it's crazy because he comes out and he looks like he's about to fight like one of them, but he really doesn't. Like he's not out here bombing on people. Despite the you would think that he's really a submission guy. Most of his wins come by submission. In fact, 10 of his 18 wins were by submission. He did get subbed when he was on Tough Brazil by a relative nobody.
Bruno Mesquita. Is
Mesquita Portuguese for mosquito?
I think it would probably be like charcoal would be my guess.
It is closer to charcoal than anything else, but yeah, it's an old Portuguese name.
Okay. Darian Caldwell, 11-1, 8-1 in Bellator, champion, has a very Phil Davis style of strike selection, probably because he trains at Alliance, but he did drop Dantas there with a leaping elbow at the on a clinch break towards the end of the second round. So he is capable of hurting people, but I feel like the frequency of that is going to be the same as Phil Davis's frequency of hurting people, which is very low. So, man, Dantas, he did, I think, as best as he could, but I think Caldwell's control and just youth, I think, and just being the better athlete really served him well in that fight. And I think this might be somewhat similar. Caldwell did make some mistakes, but like giving up the dominant position, and he did get subbed by Ty Manglo, and I would say Ego is much more likely to get a submission over Caldwell than Ty Manglo was. But I can't see this being a tougher fight than the Dantas fight. I really can't. Without that threat on the feet, I mean, I don't see Caldwell having any reason to fear shooting in or going for the takedown and closing the distance. So I got to trust Caldwell to be the more controlling person here. I think he'll score with a lot of short shots in the grappling exchanges, like a lot of knees and stuff. And then on the outside, all those like weird, funky, long range kicks. So I'm definitely taking Caldwell's Phil Davis style here. And because it works in a division where there's really only one really good guy in Eduardo Dantas, and then you got Higo, and then, I mean, that's pretty much the whole division. It's a really thin division. So after Higo, it's really just rematches for Caldwell. But I'm taking Caldwell probably by a decision.
All right, Vic, who are you picking?
I'm probably going to go with Caldwell here by submission. I think that eventually he's going to be able to bust up Ego inside, lots of elbows, a lot of really dirty clinch work, a lot of pressure, and also using his range, once they start to disengage, but then getting into the clinch and just keep him off his keep trying to shake Ego out of his comfort zone the whole way. More than anything, the wrestling is going to be a major factor here. I mean, we saw what he did to Joe Warren. We saw what he did, that beautiful rainbow suplex against Dantas. I mean, who knows what other pro wrestling level shit he's going to pull out of this one. And he doesn't have to rely on that either. But I mean, just the fact that he has that kind of threat and that sort of diversity in his all of his arsenal, it's the kind of threat that Ego hasn't seen before, and I don't think, frankly, too many fighters are prepared for that sort of thing, if you can prepare for that at all. It's kind of John Jones-esque in a way, you know, but yeah, man, I think Caldwell's just too much. His speed, his durability, his ability to take a shot is pretty good. It's going to be just too much at once, and I think over time he's going to be able to chip away at it. Even as durable a guy as Ego is, he's going to be able to control, wear him out, and then eventually sink in a submission.
All right, like I said, no odds, so that's it. I got no ability to tell you what everybody else is thinking because everybody else is passing apparently. You can find me on Twitter at @TheZaneSimon. You can find Eddie on Twitter at @TheEddieMercado. You can find Vic on Twitter at VicMRodriguez. You can find all three of us over at BloodyElbow.com. Give us a like. That's a thumbs up thing down there on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, MMANation.com, DOTCOM, all spelled out. So you get all the latest Bloody Elbow shows, videos, news, analysis, all stuff we do week in, week out. We will be back not next week, but in 2 weeks for UFC London, I believe, Volkov versus Verdum, and we'll have the Vivisection and If I Did It, and next week too we'll have, you know, If I Did It and Heavy Hands and
the 6-round retro on Monday.
6-round retro, all the shows we do week in, week out. I'll be back with the MMA Depressed Us, all that good stuff. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time.